Well, it's 3:30, so we'll go ahead and get started. See, Councilmember Dole is here. Councilmember Ishmael is here. We'll roll right into reports and presentations. Chief Parkinson.
All right, you should all have the monthly stats and just check in real quick. Everybody can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So couple notes for you here. One is that we did have a pretty decent sized brush fire on Thursday of last week. It was outside of the Bonney Lake city limits, but I did receive a call from Chief Jeter making verifying that that was the case, and I think he said, "Good, keep it outside of the city." But anyways, it ended up starting off fairly small, ended up growing into a 10-acre fire that caused a level 1 evacuation of 50 to 100 residents or so over in Prairie Ridge. Probably at its peak, we had somewhere around 70 or 80 firefighters on it and a helicopter dumping water. So, as the heat picks up this week, we've got additional crews on. One will be based out of Prairie Ridge, and one likely will be based out of here, out of our Bonney Lake station. So a couple extra units to deal with heat-related incidents, as well as obviously fires or anything else that picks up during that time. COVID updates, probably not too different than what you are all experiencing, is that we're starting to see an uptick again with employees, as well as what we're seeing out in the community with the Delta variant. Also, in addition to that, we're starting to try to wade our way through the vaccine mandate that appears does apply to our employees, because it applies to healthcare workers, and so everybody from battalion chief down in rank does fall under that category. So some things to work through internally there. As far as our levies, both Prop 1 and Prop 2 were on the ballot. Prop 1 appears to have passed, and Prop 2, as our regular fire levy, appears to have failed. Those obviously aren't final right now, but mathematically it doesn't appear possible for either one of those to change. So Prop 2, the regular fire levy, will be placed back on the November ballot. It will become Prop 1 at that point, since it'll be the only thing running for us, and do some re-messaging and re-education, and see if we can get that back up to a yes. And then last item I just have is just with equipment that we bought through the bond. We now have 4 new engines deployed out in the field, as well as our new ladder truck. So getting close. We've got our last 2 engines that we've got to do a final inspection on early next month, and then we'll have them in hand hopefully by the end of September and out on the road by mid-October, and that will complete our big equipment purchases. So exciting to see that happening. So that is all that I have.
Great. I saw the ladder truck out deployed yesterday.
Yep.
Good, yeah. On Proposition 2, I haven't looked at the numbers, but how far off is it from getting?
It failed. It was at about 44.5%. As far as raw numbers, that was about a 1,500 vote swing from no to yes. So, we have our own opinions of why it failed, and hopefully we're right. And if we re-message that and help our voters understand kind of the why behind it, that we should be successful.
Yeah.
Oh, did you figure out, and is there any research or knowledge of what happened to cause that deep brush fire?
Short answer is no, I don't have anything yet. DNR ended up taking over the fire for us, so Department of Natural Resources. So their investigator was in charge. Given its proximity, there's not a whole lot of things out there that are going to cause it other than a human, meaning there's no power lines that were going down or anything. There wasn't a road where a discarded cigarette or something else could have been thrown from a vehicle. So likely a human cause, whether it was intentional or not, that part hasn't been determined yet either. So nothing formal, but knee jerk would be likely human caused, unknown whether that was intentional or not.
Is there any encampments out there, Chief? Oh, that's out your district, so that's right.
Yeah, from what I understand, it's not uncommon to have. It's not a huge homeless site per se, but it did have apparently piles of garbage here and there. It looked like people had been living off and on in that area. So,
well, great work. My kids loved watching the helicopters work. So you guys did an amazing job containing that quickly. So well done.
And I will just, because you just said it, it remind me of something, just kind of we try to re-message this each time, but containment always kind of goofs with people's head when they think we say contained or something's 100% contained, that means it's out. It doesn't. All it means is that we have a fire line established around it. It can still be burning for days on end, but it means that we believe that we've stopped its spread at that point, and we have a hand line cut around the whole thing, or there's a road that captures some of that. So we had 100% containment by Thursday night last week, but we did not take crews off of it actively until Monday, meaning yesterday. So it took us a while to get to the point of saying we were comfortable leaving it alone.
Were you able to handle that all internally with Pierce,
Nope.
or did you have to?
No, so that took our resources. 10 other departments from inside Pierce County came, so we used the term strike team. So we had 3 strike teams, so that brought a strike team has 5 units on it, so an additional 15 units came from throughout the county, plus DNR had about 20 to 30 personnel along with the helicopter. So we hit basically every button that we can hit without going to a state mobilization. And during that incident, it started off as a 100 by 100 fire, and we had it in check. And then we had a pretty substantial wind shift. If you recall that day, it ended up being a pretty breezy day in the afternoon, and it suddenly wind shifted out of the south, and so it was driving the fire up north towards some of the homes in Prairie Ridge.
All right. Thanks, Chief. Appreciate it.
I'm sorry, before we move on,
Yes, ma'am.
Chuck, is there anyone else, any other staff members on the video, just so I can get it for attendance?
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Moving on to public safety monthly report. Chief Jeter.
All right, thank you. You have the report there. I hope you got a chance to review it. It was looks like calls for service are picking up for us. We had probably the biggest incident for the attempted robbery that we had in Woody's old neighborhood. It was actually his house that had the bullet hole through the garage door.
Really?
Your old house?
The one I sold.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
So anyhow, what happened is there was a Facebook marketplace transaction that was the victim showed up. Suspect said, "Hey, we need to drive over to the vehicle." Jumped inside the truck with the victim. As they're driving there, he pulls the gun on him and says, "Give me the cash," because he probably brought the cash to purchase. And the victim fought back, and as he's driving, they're fighting over this gun. Round goes off, luckily misses him. Or the truck, garage door, right where inside of the garage there's a batting cage set up, which children use afternoon taking batting practice, but luckily he wasn't there at the time. So nobody hurt. The truck then slams into the house 2 doors down from Woody's old house. The driver can't get out of the driver's door because it's wedged against the garage. So the suspect jumps out of the passenger door, drops the firearm. The victim is right behind him. They struggle a little bit over it. The victim's able to grab the gun. The suspect loses his shoe, starts to take off, comes back, says, "Give me the gun." And the good thing is we got this on ring video. We got the audio so that we can hear the exchange between them where he says, "Give me the gun," and the victim says, "Back and I'll shoot you," something along those lines. But anyhow, the suspect thought better of it since he lost his firearm and took off running. So we officers were pretty quick to respond to that, and I think everybody knows we're not able to use canine on that because we didn't have probable cause as part of House Bill 13. And there's some misunderstanding about what probable cause means. Probable cause, we had probable cause for a crime, but 1310 says you have to have probable cause for an arrest. You don't have somebody identified, you arrest anybody. Probable cause does not exist unless you have a suspect identified. So that's why we weren't able to put a canine out. We did some further investigation and got some more video from a neighbor, and it looks like our suspect was hiding just up the road and got picked up a short time later. So potentially a canine could have found him fairly quickly. So in the meantime, he is still in the wind and hasn't been picked up, but at least we have a suspect identified. The detectives did a fantastic job. identifying him. We had an address established real quick where they picked him up from. And so the officers went over there and detectives and made contact. It's been a house that we've been having some issues with. So suspect was not there and has not showed up to our knowledge. But the officers and detectives did a great job. And with probably about 48 hours, detectives had him identified and a warrant for his arrest. That's good. Now we just got to find him. Yeah, that's a pretty big deal in the city of Bonney Lake when that sort of crime has happened.
Yeah. What neighborhood was that in?
It was, it's not a development. It's a development.
It's called Fox Club.
Fox Club, right off of
It's
Kelly Lake Road.
12 houses. It's cul-de-sac.
It'll run Kelly Lake.
Kelly
Off to the west.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Not
exciting
very
times, but excitement that the neighbors didn't want for sure. And you'll see that most, again, you can't draw too many conclusions from a 1 year's comparison on statistics, but our calls for service are creeping back up. We've started back with the traffic enforcement or post-COVID. Our officers are pretty busy in that area, but a lot of things are remaining steady or even falling a little. Calls for service are trending up just a little bit this past month. Calls with reports are catching up. Our arrests are still slightly down from where they were last year. Summer, we're expecting another busy weekend on the lake with temperatures close to 100 again. We're going to staff up the boat. Allen York Park this weekend. So that's all I have on the report. I have a few other FYI items if nobody has any questions on the monthly. All right. We had an officer announce his retirement, Scott Kreider. He's been with us for 18 years, and he is retiring at the end of the month. So August 31st, he will be done. So, and I sent out an announcement for you guys. If you can make it, that'd be great. If you can't, no big deal. But we do want to recognize his service. Was a Marine, I guess still is a Marine, I guess I'm told. Never, no such thing as a former Marine, but he was that. He was a corrections officer, a reserve officer, and then he started his career. Did you work with him in Union? I did. You did? Yeah. And then he came to Bonney Lake. It seems to be a path for a lot of Union folks to come to Bonney Lake.
Certainly a trend there.
Yeah. But very, very solid officer. We're going to miss his leadership, and he was the type of officer that you get the exact same performance every day from. Steady, by the book, just a super good officer. It's gonna hurt to lose him. And on that front, we have still 2 vacancies from previous. That we have 2 in background, just completed their polygraphs and their psychological exam, both passed. So hopefully, when Sergeant Hogue gets back next week, we can wrap up their backgrounds, get them their formal offer letters, and fingers crossed we can have them on by September 16th. That would be a lateral from Tukwila and a lateral from Mukilteo. Officer Kreider leaving, that gives us another vacancy. So the dog continues to chase his tail. The good news is I just looked at our applications today. Jenna sent them over, and we have very good applicant for what we call the exceptional that doesn't have the 2 years on. Still has their certification from Spokane that's looking to relocate to the west side. And then we have another Tukwila officer, the guy that hasn't even started yet is already recruiting. He put his application in, and we have another officer from Tukwila who's riding with us on Monday to see if maybe they would be interested. Both of them live in the area. Again, kind of the same reasons they want to work.
Okay.
I'm hoping that we're going to get good candidates and be able to fill that position fairly quick. The Enumclaw chief came over today and met with me and gave us some bad news. Their jail rates are going up substantially, which we've been paying $62 a day, which is unheard of. And their council is pushing them to adjust. And so they're upping their rates for guaranteed beds to $80 a day. So about a 29% increase, which will amount to about $26,280 increase for 2022. So they'll be sending me the contract, and that'll be back before this committee probably in September when we So not great news, but I understand. I mean, I didn't think we were getting a heck of a deal for a few years. So ride it as long as you can. Still cheaper than Score and cheaper than Pierce County and Puyallup.
And Chief, can I add, so I heard that Yakima opened, so our long-term people, we can send to Yakima and save a lot of money. Hopefully.
Yeah, we were putting some of our long-term commits in Enumclaw, and then we were just trying to find somewhere else to put our new booking. Yeah, with that Yakima opening back up, that'll definitely help us because we had a few long-term in Score because they were behavioral management issues that Puyallup can't deal with and Pierce County won't deal with. So we ended up having to put them in a Score, and I want to say that's 100, maybe more than that a day. So, and then I think it's tonight you'll see that they're raising their rates in 2022 and adding a booking fee. So it's not cheap to book anymore. But he's continuing.
What's the rate for Yakima?
I thought it was in the 50s, honestly.
That's what I thought.
They're probably going to raise it too.
Yeah, right.
I imagine. I thought it was under 60 as well. It's 54 for some. I don't think we've had a contract with them. It just has been helping. I don't believe they. So.
Great for long term. Plus, I've never heard a defendant say, "Send me to Yakima jail."
Right.
That's always a good thing.
Yeah.
What's the name of that one?
Yakima.
I know, but
Oh,
doesn't
the
have
name.
it the name of the prison?
Yeah, it's
I thought there was a two over there.
There's a county in the city.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm
ours
thinking.
is the city, right?
So we
City.
book with the we work with the city.
I think we booked it. I'll have to confirm.
Sure.
All I know is they come pick them up and pop them back off.
Yeah,
It's
I've
really
heard that the
convenient.
Yakima one isn't the best place.
Yeah,
So we have 4 guaranteed beds in Enumclaw, right?
right.
Mhm.
Yep. You may have noticed we had a little traffic on Saturday in the big city.
Yeah.
With the Renaissance Fair, and give us a heads up that they were going to be having it. We knew it was coming, but we had talked to them pre-COVID about a traffic plan, and we thought we had an agreement. Came to pass on Saturday. Sergeant Sasaki was working day shift. He went over there, find out that there are no law enforcement. They have, I think, Explorer cadets trying to direct traffic in there. So Sergeant Sasaki, bless his heart, gave him some pointers on how to get the traffic moving and getting in there more efficiently. Once he did that, it kind of opened up things, and then Sunday was much better. But obviously Monday, phone calls were made, and the Renaissance Fair was told you will comply with the traffic plan, which includes deputies, because I think you all know it's not in the city where they hold it, but it hugely impacts us. So they will have 2 deputies helping with traffic control next 2 weekends. Hopefully we won't notice the impacts that we did on Saturday. And they said they underestimated the size of the crowd on Saturday just because there have been no outdoor events for over
Did they
a
have
year.
a permit? Did we?
With the county.
With the county, right? It's not with us.
Right.
So
We do
there's no
try
heads
to,
up.
yeah, we do try to work with help with the traffic plan and make sure out for us too, and they've been very good. Fell through the cracks. I talked to the Renaissance person who's in charge, and they said that they thought once they put in their permit that they would just 2 cops would show up Saturday, and when they didn't show up, they panicked a little bit, and then they called who usually does it, and he's like, no, told me, and so there's a lot of this, but the bottom line is they didn't have anybody show up to help them with traffic. Thank goodness Sergeant Sasaki was proactive and went there because it did seem to make a difference. But I know a lot of frustrated people. There was backups all the way down to the bottom of the hill. Veterans was backed all the way up. So yeah, 192nd on to 410 was backed up. It was a mess for a while. So hopefully we won't have to deal with that. One complicating matter for the last weekend of the Renaissance Fair, they'll be shutting down northbound 167, funneling traffic through Sumner. So we'll have the Ren Fair that weekend too. So it's going to be a mess in East Pierce County
What weekend
traffic-wise.
is that? Is that
The 20th.
The 20th.
I think it's the 21st and 20th.
Is the shutdown is at night though, isn't it?
No,
8 p.m. to
no,
it's in the
all
daytime?
weekend. Yeah,
Oh,
it starts
gracious.
at I think it starts at 8 on Friday night and open it back up Monday morning.
Oh my.
But it's a hard closure the entire week. So they've recruited us to work off duty for traffic control too. Officers. they're predicting 10-mile backup.
Oh, yeah.
Stay up on the hill.
Yeah.
Stay up here this
east,
weekend,
yeah.
that weekend.
Yeah,
stay
20th through
home.
the-
So that's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. Business and action items. AB 21-108, Resolution 67, authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with the American National Red Cross for use of the Bonney Lake Senior Center as a disaster shelter. Woody.
So, council members, we've had an ongoing agreement with the Red Cross to use our senior center as a disaster shelter in the past. They wanted to refresh their agreements, and so they've asked us to renew. This provides the use of the shelter. It would be the city's only designated shelter that the city has under its control. And as you're probably familiar, I mean, I assume you're familiar with the senior center. It's not really that big a facility, so we can't really house that many people. There are no shower facilities or anything like that. So it's really intended to be more of a short-term facility if it's used at all overnight. We have used it I've been here since 2003. And I think that was a power outage. And so, the process is that if we want to open up this building as a shelter, the senior center as a shelter, we could do that internally, or we can turn to the Red Cross and ask them to do it. But they don't come in and just open up shelters. They only respond to requests. So that's pretty much how this agreement works. There's no money exchanges hands. We do pay the utilities. We continue to pay the utilities. So
basically, in the light of an emergency where we would want to open up the shelter, we would call the Red Cross. Is it county Red Cross or is it state?
Well, it's the I forget it. It's
Really?
Something like that.
Chapter.
Yeah, I mean it's the local Red
and they
Cross.
would staff it, so we wouldn't
Right.
staff it. They would staff it.
Right. Theoretically.
Theoretically.
The last time we actually set up, of course, there was a lot of cross communications last time during the summer Great Fire when we opened it up. There was a lot of cross communications about who was actually asking for this shelter and whose shelter it was, and so there was just a lot of confusion, and hopefully this will help us clarify how that. But they eventually sent a person over, but that person didn't get any support or backup, and the county provided pots and blankets and all kinds of stuff like that, but then the staff had to set up what was set up, and so it was just Red Cross couldn't get anybody here because 410 was closed down. They didn't know how to get people around. They had people working other fires, and so it was a lot of confusion the last time we tried to do it. So I've talked with them. I think we'll talk some more, but we'll see if we can how this. But in the meantime, we're proposing that we renew, we sign this agreement.
Has there ever been any discussion to use the high school gymnasium that does have shower facilities and stuff as a larger structure area, where you could have triage and you could have, some more things to space stuff out? I mean, the senior center is great, but more for cooking meals and things like that rather than help.
As a city, we have not done that yet. The Red Cross has agreements with Sumner Bonney Lake School and churches in the area.
Okay.
So, if we needed a larger facility for a longer duration, we asked them to help coordinate.
And would this shelter agreement involve the cooling centers that we've talked about at certain times, or this would be major
This
need
is
like fire, earthquake, those kinds of, this wouldn't be like warm weather or cold weather shelters?
Yeah,
Or would it tie into that as well?
I don't think that this contemplates it being for, cooling centers or warm stations. This is more disaster.
We feel good about the generator and everything there. I mean, I don't know if, obviously, we probably maintain that and all of that, but
It's the generator that also serves the old Public Works Center.
okay.
So they want to have power. So, generally it's reliable. generator.
Is it a gas? Is it like a?
I think it's diesel.
It's diesel. Okay, so it's not. It doesn't automatically come on.
Oh, it does.
It
actually.
does.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's a small diesel storage tank. It does come on automatically.
It automatically
If the
transfers.
power. Theoretically.
Here.
Sometimes it does. Sometimes
Have we
it doesn't.
tested it
But
lately?
oh, no, they test it regularly.
Okay, good.
Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But when it doesn't, they get out there and manually get it fired up.
Will the new Public Works Center have something better version of that?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm not in
Just
that
wondering
loop.
about-
It is designed with a backup generator as base for the facilities. So yes, and it will have
Like the
Power gets
Generacs,
cut
who
off.
like,
Yes.
they're built in the ground,
Yeah.
they run on. As an upgrade for the next go around as we finish it.
So that's all I got. I mean, that's our recommendation.
Was there any changes to the agreement, basically? It was just. I don't see a problem with that.
Sounds
And there's
great.
no-
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no financial investment that we're handing over. It looks like that. Chuck Grant hasn't.
Can we put that on the consent agenda then?
I think so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For tonight? No, next time around.
Next meeting. Next regular.
Approval of meeting notes.
Looked pretty good.
Approved.
Approved.
Approved. Open committee discussion. Warming and cooling centers. Obviously, John was going to talk about this. He sent, I don't know if you guys sent it to you guys too or not, in regards to the warming and cooling centers and policy from other cities. It was kind of a hodgepodge, but essentially the main theme through all of them was like a regular temperature gauge. Like if you hit 100 degrees, they open up. Or if you hit 100 degrees for 2 or 3 days in a row, it would open up. Or if you freezing for several days in a row, it would open. There's different ones as far as it's going to be open during the evening, or if it's just a day shift type of opening or not. So what I'm thinking, I would like to see is something along those lines of, hey, if it hits 100 degrees for 2 days in a row, we're going to open it, or it's projected to open, 100 degrees for 2 days in a row. Then we're going to try and open that as a cooling center during the day. Go home and give out some water or whatnot. The freezing one. Do is come up with a, however many days, open up and just as.
You have something to say about that, Chief? No, you were shaking your head.
I think it's
Oh,
great.
he's gone. I can't hear him.
Can you hear me okay? No, I might have had a delay there. No, I didn't have anything to say. But since you asked me, and now that I have a captive audience, we've been talking about the same thing about what triggers what, for us operationally. And so our default is back to when we're getting the PC alerts on excessive heat warnings is what is triggering us adding additional staffing. And I expect that we'll do the same thing during the winter. Is that will trigger us to at least have the conversation. It at least becomes a decision that somebody else is pushing. It's not just our own, licking our finger and putting it in the air and saying it feels like fire season or something. So.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I would think something like that to where not just taking, hey, we're going to open it this time, we're not going to open it this time.
Did MRSC have anything like concrete of like, okay, this that we could follow and implement?
Well, they had policies from some of the different cities. Specifically, I was thinking of Burien had a pretty specific one because they've got several warming and cooling centers.
Yeah.
There was a couple other ones. I think there was like 5 or 6.
There's quite a few. There's quite a few on the list here that seems like the 100 degrees is kind of the balance. But I think it's thoughtful. I think it's good. I think it'll help the staff if we have those specifics listed out. It looks like some of them have limited set days and hours too. So that it's 100 degrees after 2 days, then it's open from this to this. And so if we could get maybe some support, through staff to make sure that we can maintain it, I think it's a good idea. I know that our priority would be, and I don't know how we would do this, but if we would do it at the senior center again, like we did last time, are we going to be able to give the seniors their first crack at being in and how that would work? But at least it's an available option for folks.
I will say when they have opened it, my understanding is there hasn't been a ton of people using it. I mean, there's a few, so I want to help out those few, but it hasn't been overloaded.
Okay, good.
Yeah, actually, the last time we
Didn't have
Anyone? Okay.
Well, and the official opening day is August 30th, right?
Oh,
You
yeah,
said?
for
For the reopening of the.
If I could just jump in for a minute, I am currently working on a policy for warming cooling centers, disaster shelter. When they open, I'm using Wallops policies as kind of a model right now. If I'm working on that, I'll bring it back to you to look at. We also went ahead and we're planning on opening the senior center this Thursday and Friday as a cooling center, as a cooling station. We're calling it the stations so that we don't get our cooling center and senior center and center all mixed up. So we're calling it a cooling station. So just here's some preliminary information that we're going to be.
Because we're kind of hitting that 100-degree mark.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we're all it does, and we're going to do it, and I presume a lot of other cities do as well. It's not really based on the air temperature. It's based on the heat index. So the higher humidity that you have, the lower the temperature that is impactful to us as humans, because we can't perspire as effectively. So when you say 100 degrees, the actual air temperature may be 90, 92, but the relative humidity may be up at 75 or 80 or something like that. So we're going to use the heat index as our indication of when, as the heat trigger point, so to speak. And a cooling, probably, a heating station probably have some similar type of. Frankly, it'll probably be more simply based on temperature. But there's things that we hadn't considered in the past that we are now because we've done some of this research. At the senior center, we're going to invite people to bring their pets this time. I heard anecdotally from Puyallup when they opened up some of their cooling centers or stations that people they wouldn't come because they couldn't bring their pets.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're gonna try it out with pets this time and see how that works. Maybe we'll get some people to actually come in.
I like it.
But we'll see. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of fill you in. We're taking steps to do exactly what you're asking for or hoping for.
That's wonderful.
And like I said, we'll bring it back to you to look at. comment on.
Perfect.
But we're gonna get some practical experience here with this.
Yeah, really quick. Well, thank you for doing that and looking into that. I look forward to looking it over. I think we're on the same page as far as what we're looking for. And just some kind of policy idea of, okay, we'll do it here and we'll do it here.
Yeah,
Some,
and
so it's just not so
those,
random.
having those trigger points built
Yeah.
in just makes it so much easier for everybody.
Yep.
It's not
You know,
a
it's not
big
well,
Yeah, right.
decision.
do we not, can we get,
Yeah.
and we work out all the things about staffing and about, whether or not pets are going to be allowed.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, Woody.
Oh, you're welcome.
So I have a question on, I guess, agenda stuff. Typically, these are open to the public. Is the public open to speak at these typically?
It's up to the chair.
It's up to the chair? Okay. We have two members of the public here who I know have some issues they want to bring forward. And so if you guys want to, talk, more than happy to listen. We've talked before, but I know you wanted, I know you want, yeah, you got an opportunity with an audience to hear what you're concerned about. Do you want to come down here so you can be closer to the cameras? It's recorded or whatnot.
Right here.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Well, first of all, thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to address the city's Public Safety Committee. And I want to commend the police department, not only for your officer response and detective work to get hopefully or probably a good community member off the street, but also in your recruitment. I know how difficult that is. Get a lateral, so congratulations on that. So my name is Nancy Leanne. I'm a resident of Bonney Lake, and our home is located on the south end of Lake Taps, in the city limits, obviously. And on a regular basis, we observe the activities that occur on the lake on a daily and nightly basis. As you're aware, we did have, or may be aware, we had a serious boating accident several weeks ago when a young girl was injured and had to be hospitalized. This occurred when a boater who was disregarding the boating distance laws cut her tow line, causing her to be pulled into his boat, and then he left the scene of the accident. So to be honest, because of the reckless activity we observe on the lake on a regular basis, this doesn't surprise us, and we wonder why there aren't more serious accidents. We're extremely concerned about the safety of those who recreate on the lake and the protection of the property and bulkheads that create the lake shoreline. When we relocated here 6 years ago, we were surprised at the disregard for the boating regulations that occur on a regular basis. At first, we weren't sure if there was a lack of understanding of the laws, or if boaters and jet skiers were simply choosing to ignore them. After doing a little bit of research, reading some information on the new Lake Taps Boater Group site with 3,000 members, we discovered that a large number of people who use the lake for recreation aren't even aware there are any boating regulations at all. I'm referring to basic ones such as distance between two boats, maximum speed limit within 200 feet of a dock or shore, maximum speed limit after sunset, no jet skiing after sunset, and the requirement to have navigation lights after sunset, just to name a few. We believe both safety and property protection could be improved in two ways: educational outreach and enforcement that supports the Pierce County's current boating laws, which the city of Bonney Lake has also adopted. We saw, when we researched the county code, we discovered that the county had actually codified a boating advisory commission composed of 9 members for the purpose of advising the county sheriff, the county executive, and county council on matters related to boating and conditions and safety. And we thought that'd be a great place to start to bring our concerns this time around. However, we learned that the commission has basically been inactive for some time, and that all the commissions of all the members have expired. So we contacted Councilman Dave Morell's office, and he's currently drafting legislation to get the commission up and running again and to restructure kind of how it operates. We know that the issue of safety of Lake Taps falls under both Pierce County and the city of Bonney Lake, and we're asking for assistance in supporting a concerted effort to improve the boating regulation educational efforts and to review the current level and types of enforcement on Lake Taps. And to start with, we'd like to have a better understanding of how the city funds the enforcement on the lake and in the approach to the enforcement. And we'd like to request that this topic be put on a future agenda at the Public Safety Committee. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This probably isn't fair, but my name is Jeff Lincoln, partner. We live at the north end of Inlet Island, so we're at the northern end of Bonney Lake, on the southern part of the lake. We were here 6 years and 2 weeks ago, or 5 years and 2 weeks ago in 2016. And so this isn't the first time we've asked for help with enforcement on the lake. When we were here, there was 5 of us. There's some of our neighbors. We all had the same issues. And for those of you that are not familiar with the lake where we live, I could pop in a video and show you. I brought 3 videos with me today, but I don't think it's appropriate at this meeting. It's crazy, okay? The area between Interlake Inlet is less than 400 feet wide. You read the county ordinance, which the city has adopted, the speed limit cannot be more than 5 miles an hour in that passageway. But when we came and we brought that to the committee's attention, the chief of police was here, and the officer who was with the Marine Patrol, the officer that was assigned to that, we were kind of completely blown off. So, we didn't pursue this any further. But where the buoys are located and the lack of buoys and the lack of education and information provided to casual boaters is of great concern to us. So today, Nancy and I went to Allen York, and we went to, before that, we had gone to the county park, and we looked at the signage, and we looked at the information provided. There were 3 county sheriff's deputies in vehicles at the county park. There's nobody at Allen York. And I understand that, there are budgets and there are constraints and so forth. But then we looked at where the information was for boaters who are launching at Allen York, which is kind of like, you can launch whenever you want at Allen York because it's open 24 hours a day except on Wednesdays. So we looked at the big board with all the information on it, and you can't read the regulations because the glass is frosted over. 2 weeks ago, we went to Lake Kitsap and we looked at what their information was. They have a very large board at the boat launch, and it says, here's the regulations, here's the boating pattern, and so forth and so on. But there's nothing like that on Lake Tapps. So we have concerns. My biggest concern, to tell you the truth, aside from I have a lot of concerns, I've got wave action hitting the bulkhead, and we're the northernmost parcel of land on the island. Again, I've got a video of the waves crashing in there, coming up over the top of the bulkhead and up 6 or 8 feet high in the air above it. And there are times when there's no way that we could get a jet ski out or a pontoon boat, and our pontoon boat sits in that cradle, and it just gets banged by the waves all day long. As a matter of fact, I got 4 bumpers on that thing. It's actually dented from the force of the lateral motion of the wave action. So, as Nancy pointed out, what we would request is that we want to work with the city and with the county, but I really believe that some changes are in order. And I believe that we need to move from education to enforcement. There are several boats. There's I guess there's about a dozen of them. But one of them is pretty obvious to gauge because it has 300 horsepower outboards on the back end of it. Again, I've got a video of that boat blasting between a boat being taken under tow and a boat that's getting ready to tow kids behind it. Area less than 150 feet wide, and I got a picture, I've got a video of that boat blasting through there wide open. The question I have in my mind is, why is there a 1,000 horsepower boat, Lake Tapps, with a 60 mile an hour speed limit that is allowed to operate wide open? Absolutely wide open. I've seen a Bonney Lake police officer in a patrol boat stop that guy. Boat is parked opposite Allen York Park. It's an MTS high torque marine HTM SR24 horsepower equipment on that range is between 900 and 1100 horsepower. It's a turbocharged diesel, and it will do over 110 miles an hour. But I've watched them stop them, saying, naughty, naughty, watch the boat turn around and go back down to the south end, the next day be out there doing the same thing. We were told that the police officers have no way, when we were here 5 years ago, that they have no way of enforcing a police or a speed limit on the lake. So the question is, on the books, Pierce County Ordinance 8.88, 10 to whatever, Bonney Lake adopted it. What we're asking for is some enforcement. Where we live, there's a buoy placed 172 feet from the bulkhead, 150 feet from the dock. Routinely, boats will come inside that thing, normal 20, 30, 40 miles an hour, and against the flow that's supposed to be, and they'll cut right through there. It's just another day on the lake. Previous owner, when we got pictures of what he did, put a huge floaty out there, anchored it, and said, okay, run into my floaty if you want. We don't think that's appropriate. We don't think we should have to do that. But what we're asking for is we need some enforcement. So we would ask that you put this on the agenda for next meeting, that we be allowed to bring some of the video camera. I keep it on a tripod next to the deck. See what I call them, the nutcases out there going crazy with these unbelievable boats. Just asking a question, why? The other question, just kind of like routine questions. The ordinance says no wake jumping. The ordinance says no unmuffled engines. The ordinance says it has sound. We can hear some of these boats from a mile away. Unmuffled boats are routinely out there, these drag boats with these big V8 engines, straight out the exhaust. There's no mufflers on those things. They violate 2 different sections of the ordinance. And nobody does anything about it. The question is why? Why is there no enforcement? So I'll stop. We do care. We are active members of the Lake Tap Boaters Group on Facebook. I will tell you, I absolutely despise Facebook. There's nothing I like about Facebook. But there's a video on there from last week of a boat cutting. Any members of that group here? There's a video on that. Yeah, there's a video that was posted, and there was a wakeboarder behind a boat, and he's surfing along, minding his own business, and all of a sudden, across, not 20 yards behind him, is a huge boat comes right behind him, violating 14 different parts of the ordinance. If that guy had fallen, there's no way for that boat to stop. There's no way. And it's just, is he going to hit him or is he not going to hit him? So the behavior, the reckless behavior of some of the people on the lake is just insane. I am astounded. As I said on Q13 here about 3 weeks ago, right after the accident happened, we are really surprised that there hasn't been more serious accidents. Because the behavior, again, it's like watching a 3-ring circus from my deck. Here comes a boat coming this way, and they're heading for the same buoy people coming through the channel are heading for. This guy wants to come this way. This guy wants to come that way. There's a limited view. And if they're not paying attention, if they're on their cell phone or they're doing something else, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And finally, one last thing. After dark, it's a 3-ring circus out there. Jet skis at 10 and 11 o'clock at night. No lights, totally out of illegal. Boaters doing 30, 40 miles an hour out there. I mean, just flying. And the speed limit, and I reread this, not 8 miles an hour after dark. It's 5 miles an hour after dark on Class A Lake in Pierce County. So, and the county told us when we had the conversation with Councilmember Morell's office, they don't have any patrols at dark. So, it's a free-for-all. It's a complete free-for-all after dark. Anyway, thank you for your time. We are concerned. Would ask that this be brought up further. There are some thoughts. We are going to participate with the county on the Boater Advisory Commission that is supposed to be reconstituted. We are working with Wayne Bratvold, who's the gentleman that has put a huge amount of energy towards organizing the group at Lake Taps. And we do want to work with, we'd rather work with the groups that can do something about it, which is the city of Bonney Lake and Pierce County. But the voters group is becoming more active, and I think that there should be some changes. And we would ask them for so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What kind of signage did you see on the other side of the lake on the county side?
They have one.
At the boat
we
launch.
love it, yeah. They have a really big reader board, really big, 60 miles an hour, which we thought was really interesting because if you were somebody coming to the lake, you're like, I can go 60, rather than saying I can go 60. That's the maximum if it's not after dark or I'm not within 100 feet or I'm not, the jet. So that was the only sign that had 60 miles. Bonney Lakes is they have this kind of big reader board that Jeff said the plexiglass is, over the years scratched. Yeah. But all it is an 8.5 by 11 of all the regulations. So I can tell you if I was launching a boat, I would not be up there going looking for that. So, there's just a couple laws that you need to post, and one of them is a jet ski or a paddleboard. And the after dark, and then the maximum speed limit. Well, that's what Kids at the Lake had. We could give you like 3 bullets. So you see this big sign.
I remember you showed us the sign, a picture of that. We need to get a copy of that.
We want to bring that information to you.
Yeah.
The other thing, I've culled out 20 or 30 videos. I've got 3 of them. I actually have all of them with me on a notebook computer, but just watching the behavior of what goes on, particularly where we live, because we live at a point that's like a Y. So you got the channel coming out from Bonney Lake, going into the big lake. You've got people coming, trying to go back to Bonney Lake. You got people that are trying to go around Snag. You got people coming from around Snag that go in those 2 directions. And I've got some pictures that would boggle your mind. 3 jet skis, 2 high-performance boats, a wake surfer, and they're all in the same space at the same time. It's like, oh my God. Anybody falls off a jet ski, anybody, it drives me crazy when I see people driving down the road with a cell phone. Well, that's nothing. I got a picture of an 11-year-old, and the guy that's responsible, the 11-year-old is operating the boat. He's well within 200 feet of the shoreline, and the guy behind him is supposed to be watching him is on a cell phone. It's like something we need some help. Right? It's dangerous for us to utilize our waterfront property.
No, we don't go in the water.
Yeah.
We cannot actually be in our water without being thrown.
So we have a boat launch. Our limitation of what we can do on the water is to be in that boat launch. It's incredible. It's the amount of turbulence. We have 2 jet skis. They're behind the dock and behind the pontoon boat. And the gunwales of the jet ski on the one closest to the bulkhead is full of water. Didn't have any water in it when we put it on the lift. Now it's got 6 inches of water in it. Where'd that come from? It's coming from the water hitting that bulkhead and coming up over the jet ski. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So appreciate it.
Which that brought up the idea of the sign down there. You and I talked about sign. Show like the direction of travel on the lake and a couple of bullet points.
Daytime hours.
Yeah. So I'm sure.
Yeah, I think a 1-sheeter or something, even taking an afternoon or a couple afternoons on a busy day and be handing these out that has some of that updated information would be good. Kind of like when you did the distracted driving emphasis, and it was just in your face. There was people there. If we take a couple weekends to do something like that, I think it'd be a huge benefit because we've talked about this, almost every other meeting about the the fishing boats and the kayakers and, all that mix is just not going to work. It's not going to work out. And we only see it from, the shorelines a lot of times where it sounds like it's pretty consistent throughout the rest of the lake.
How does that work partnership with Chief, with Pierce and the Sheriff's Department? Do they have a boat too, or just us?
They have a boat. Sometimes they have two, but they're like us. It's not patrolled all bigger unit than we have, and get that 1% we operate on. I don't know if they put officers out on regular duty. Ours is all overtime. You don't force people. Obviously, covering our street is the first and foremost priority. And if nobody signs up for the boat, it goes on, unfortunately. Staffing issue, we have 30 officers. Not all of them want to work the boat. You have to be certified to work the boat. Try to do the best we can. But trying to staff up, like I said, for this weekend. Heavy vacation times. We got officers out of the area. County has the same, and we're similar. We don't talk to dock trying to stay launch, but we don't pull at night. Staffing is. That being said, if you see something, certainly call it in. Have members of the there's somebody working and they're call it in and staffing it.
Can I say something?
Please.
So whatever we've been doing the last 6 years hasn't been working, because I know exactly where you guys are talking about. It is crazy down that little cut area. I spent 4 years of my life in college on Lake Washington, so I'm very familiar with the rules, and it irks me too when people don't abide by those rules, because I have been in Lake Washington, trying to save myself. So what about this idea? And I know it's a little bit different because Cascade Water Alliance owns, a portion of the water, but is there a way we could put a sign out there? Because if in Lake Washington, some of the high traffic areas do have some sort of speed limit sign or something that reminds them what the knots are, the highest, and something, and I know that's not going to be an ultimate problem, but like what we've been doing has been working. So let's try some new stuff, right? Could be, something that will blast their face, like don't run through here.
Thank you for bringing that up, because before we moved to Bonney Lake, pontoon boat was moored on Lake Union. So we traveled and cruised Lake Union all the time. We were with the ducks. We were in there with the duck dodge, and we went through the Mott Lake cut. And Nancy buried the bow up on Lake Washington, one of the air shows. And
that's awesome.
So yeah, and Seattle had 9 patrol boats on the lake. They had some serious enforcement. So there was actual enforcement. The issue on signage and marking, I mentioned I talked last Monday when we were at the county council meeting. Everything in the city. I'm a former public works director, as a matter of fact, so I understand the jail issue, dollars. Starts with the budget, and the question is budget allocation. First of all, you come up with a list of things you can do, and the signage is one. There needs to be another dozen buoys purchased, spotted legally and appropriately. There has to be some discussion of what to do on that. There has to be some discussion. There has to be some, you could sit there all day. One of the comments that was, well, ticket's only a class 14 misdemeanor, $, nobody cares. The county apparently has only written 14 citations. The question is, why not write 400 citations? Let people know there are rules. Right now, pretty obvious, after dark, there are no rules. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. People are out there doing weird stuff, and you roll out of bed going, what the hell's going on out there? So signage, but marking, and the question is, that cut in 2008, boat drove over another boat and decapitated a person.
There is a sign at Allen, York. I found this ironic. Sign at Allen, York. Yet there isn't anything about what you could do. Sign is this big, huge. He was decapitated, not.
So the idea of signage and information and handing out flyers and all of those things have some modicum of people know that there's no, put the boat in the water, they're on lake taps, there's the Bonney Lake police boat up on the lift, so there's nobody out there unless the county's out there, and the county's not. Matter of fact, this year there seems to be less presence, law enforcement, Bonney Lake, or any of the piers. Past 6 years. So,
As I spoke to the county, the thing that people, and I should have, pandemic hit, Lake was one of the places people, all of our activities. And it's, you mentioned the lake in the summer is like a street. It's like a highway. It's our backyard. It feels like if we came and asked for help eating in our backyard, we would probably get some, but this hasn't happened.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, the Parks Department gives money for boating enforcement or whatnot, and didn't that get cut this year?
We did get cut pretty significantly. It's Parks, Washington State Parks got, I think it was a $25,000 grant. It was a federal grant through state parks. Our funding got cut.
So the only way on the next, say, budget cycle or whatnot is to basically increase that funding from us, because we can't really rely on the Parks Department. Provide enough funding basically to keep us out there on a regular basis when we can staff it and all that. Well, so it seems like that's something we should probably ask for in our next budget. Money specifically set.
Would it be possible? Agenda, but to hear, I'm a believer that I first have to understand before I criticize. So I'd love to know how the funding is. I mean, I know that you get some the tabs. And also what the approach is. What is what that is. Last time was our approach is fire extinguisher, with the assumption that if you have a voter's card, therefore you're going to mine the. That's just something. So, when there are things that occur, and we know that we've observed when you're on the lake, not your, but the Marine Patrol is out there. It's kind of a stop and chat. So there really are no consequences. Whether it's $25 or $300. I just would like to understand. Separate thing.
I don't see a problem with it. We could do one in the future. You can have either you or whoever's in charge of MSU. Now, if they want to come out and give a presentation, and for the council members too, to understand how that works.
Especially if the budget was cut because of the grant, which probably explains why there's less people on the lake this summer if the grant was cut. So that explains that. And then, but to understand if we need to supplement that grant and to the extent that we need to do that, for a period of time, for these 3 months, June, July, August.
Getting into May too, because we're getting the nicer weather.
That's true.
In May, so the boating season has actually been extended. September, correct me. We usually have a really nice September. Now we're getting nice Mays, and we even had April. I think last year there was a 90-degree day in April that caught everybody by surprise. But I don't know that our patrols are down this year. I'll have to check and see. And budget's one thing. Staffing is a big issue for us. Getting people. So again, we are a small agency, and we can't even overtime. Cover patrol shifts, yes, sir.
Is it ideas? Boy, you're the expert. We don't want to tell you how to staff your priorities. What is the school resource officer's role?
He usually fills in patrol and covers vacation. Honestly, he takes most of the summer off because he doesn't get to take time off the rest of the year. So
The other thing that we thought, and maybe this is brainstorming and maybe not right, but I'll do it anyway. There's enough interest from enough people hired, I think. There's many people that are interested in this. The question is support the city with volunteer hours forming a auxiliary for the lake patrol. Know that you know the risks, all sorts of issues. But I'm hopeful that the county is going to bring the right parties together, at least on Lake Taps. Maybe we can work together if there is a sheriff's auxiliary, get that staffed appropriately, right kinds of people. The team with a commissioned officer, work them to make sure that, go ready, do whatever's necessary, help with education. Want to be part of the solution. Nancy and I both spent 30 years in government. We're both retired. You're looking for participating and being productive. You don't want to be a pain in the ass.
I appreciate that. I know Dwayne Bradley brought up that auxiliary earlier, and that's probably a thing that's something better for the county. Then we would have somebody. We had a volunteer program that did our parking. We don't have a huge parking problem, but it helped out. So this may be a way to do something for people that want to help. Very helpful.
And Saturday, about 10 of us spent the whole day delivering the dock numbers. The Cascade Water Alliance funded that we all have a dock number, so it helps. You have to call and ask for help. And 1,100 people had never picked up their dock numbers, so we delivered them to their homes. And then we've also got East Pierce Fire and Rescue is really active, and they're scheduling a boater's first aid class. So they're really helping. They're the ones who are also involved.
We grabbed our 50 dock numbers. East Pierce did an incredible job putting this together. We grabbed our 50 and we went out, walked, and we delivered these things and figured out we were delivering the empty lots and whatever we needed to do. We got home. Ours was underneath the fence. Of course, we already had ours on the dock. So now we got two of them. So hold another dock.
I know that we just recently worked with East Pierce to create a public service announcement. John, do you know when that is going to be published? I know they're editing it. I saw that it went through to us this week for edits.
The video was done. There was some sound issues, which I had asked to do some cleanup of. Unfortunately, we had some wind noise, and then just the background music we chose was kind of overriding some of the people speaking. So I was doing some cleanup on that, but it should be ready in the next day or so.
I think the more people involved, the better. The one for us is Cascade Water Line. As far as the buoys placement, I don't know how many buoys we have, but it takes up a lot of our time. Placing more out there, obviously. I don't know how many the county has. We have most of them. We end up every year finding them in front of somebody's house, sunk, something, so replacement of them.
Before we bought our house here in 2015, I came to the city, property owners, code violations. Before we closed on that house, board meeting. But Nancy researched all of the ownership issues. They actually own all of the water. We went and spoke at their board meeting. Water elevation policy, the closure, wind down of the water levels. Great group of people. Nancy knows the current executive director I used to work with. They have provided an amazing resource for this community. Those 5 communities that own that water right, that lake, are invested in our community. Here we were here, they did $17 million worth of lake. So, relationship with Cascade Water Line, good people, very professional.
Taking up a lot of your time if you know it wasn't on the agenda.
Okay, we appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming out and talking about that. That's the last thing on the agenda, though, so then we will go ahead and adjourn. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.